Hi everyone, my name's Anne Marie. Welcome to Card Making Project 553 and it's Happy Christmas Friday here. So today we're going to be using lots of our Christmas goodies from our Anna Griffin craft room stash, and we're going to create a gorgeous Christmas card with a very vintagey look. Now, I've actually used distressing inks with this. You don't have to if they're not your thing and you prefer to keep everything crisp. Then you use it, as you want to use it. So I've kind of distressed the papers and the cardstock just a little bit. Now you could tone it even further if you wanted to and make it even darker, or you could just, as I say, not bother and just leave it as it is. This card stems from a request that I had a couple of weeks ago. We used the Christmas Radial snowflake die, and 2 days before the actual release of that tutorial, I was asked by a lady if I was going to be using the Christmas Radial dies, and I said yes. Actually, Friday is one of the tutorials, and as soon as the tutorial was released, I thought I must use the Holly Radial die because it's so beautiful and I want to use it in slightly a different manner. And I think today's card works really well with that. And it's something a little bit different. I use a couple of older items and it just all works. And you would, if you don't have the older items, you would be able to use the newer items that you've got in your stash, because you would be able to substitute everything quite easily. Everything I do use I should put in a detailed list on my blog, so please be sure to check it out. There's always lots of photos of the project, both inside and out, and I think this is just a quick, easy and something a little bit different for you to be able to use with your cardstock and your Christmas toppers, etc. So please have a look on the blog, and there's so many other projects on there as well. Give me the thumbs up if you've enjoyed it, and let me know what you think about the videos. If you ever want to see anything, I'll do my best. Remember, I kind of work a couple of weeks ahead of myself, so you've got to give me time for preparation and things like that, because obviously work gets in the way. So I don't expect something straight away, but I do my best to kind of answer questions, etc. So without further ado, please sit back, relax, and let's have a look at today's gorgeous Christmas card. So for today's Christmas card making project, we're going to be using the Paper Tricks 2 Chevron and Fold embossing folder. Now we're actually only going to be using this section, so that's from Paper Tricks 2 from Anna Griffin. We're also going to be using the Anna Griffin Christmas wrap stamps. Now these are from a few years ago, and we're going to be using this particular stamp here. It says Be Merry. If you don't have these stamps, I'm sure you'll have some in your stash that you can use instead and substitute these. I am also, and this is backed by popular demand, I'm going to be using the Holly Christmas Radial border dies from Anna Griffin. I'm going to use both the shadow layer and the ornate layer, and get asked a lot about magnetic storage for dies. These come on the Anna Griffin magnetic sheet. I've just added the tab myself because I tab all my magnetic sheets, whether they're Anna Griffin dies or not. I add tabs so that I know what dies they are, so I can flick through them all. So now Anna's dies come on a pre-made magnetic sheet to hold your dies. My magnetic sheets, I'll show you one that's I've made and not made it very well. Magnetic sheet on the back of cardstock, and again just with a tab. I back them onto cardstock so they don't stick together as you flick through them. So it's just the case of whatever suits your storage ideas. But now Anna's come on magnetic sheets anyway, and the different size, the size to fit the dies, so that's great. But I do get asked a lot about storage. Just thought I'd mention that and go off track. I'm sorry. Well, I'm not sorry, but you know what I mean. So for today's Christmas card, I'm going to start with a base of an ivory blank card in 5 by 7, 7 by 5. inches, and I've already hand stamped the back of the card and used one of my Anna Griffin rubber stamps, and it says handmade by, and I've added my name and I add the project number as well. So I can now use my bone folder to make sure I've got a nice sharp crease along the edge of the card. Now I've got to say this card is a little bit different, and it's from the inking that I've done. It will be a little bit, I won't say distressed, but you could make it more distressed and it would still work. So it kind of sets you off on that path and shows you what you could do. Now for the inside and the Christmas paper that I use, it could be any Christmas paper that you have in your stash. I'm using some Christmas paper from Anna from a few years ago, and sadly I don't think it was available in the UK. Again, something that I picked up on my travels. However, you could use any of Anna's Christmas papers. This would work really well with the Christmas plaid papers that we've had this year on QVC UK. Now I know my friends across the pond have had the full range of Christmas papers this year, and there was some beauties, so you could use anything. Now this is a scrap that's been left over from the front of the card, because as you know I tend to do the fronts first and then work backwards and do the insert last when I'm prepping. So this is a scrap that was from the front, and I've already run it through the actual embossing folder. You know, the Paper Tricks 2 one, just to get the ridges. I don't know if that's, there we go. So it's got the ridges on. I haven't inked it, I haven't done anything else to this, and it is just the size of the actual card. And I'm just going to add it to the inside, to the lower edge, and it goes edge to edge and it sits nice and flat. Next, I've taken a piece of ivory cardstock, I've tapped it around the edge with a cherry red ink pad, and then I've stamped in the middle from the stamps that we looked at the beginning, and it says Be Merry. I've stamped in 2 colours, so I've literally added my ink and then added the second colour before I stamped. I didn't stamp it and then stamp it again. I was just really careful, but not so careful that I missed a bit in the middle. So I've just used the 2 colours for the centre, for our sentiment. I've got flat tape on the back of this, and I'm going to peel that away, and I'm going to add this just through the centre of our card. So it kind of covers some of the paper at the bottom, and it leaves a little bit at the top. So for the little bit at the top, I've cut nearly an inch. It's kind of like a section on my trimmer. It's not an inch, but it's just less than an inch. And I've cut a strip. I've got flat tape on the back, and I'm going to add this to the top section above where we've added the ivory insert, and just under the fold for the card. And that's our insert complete. So you can see how it marries up. Well, you will see how it marries up to the front of the card. And it just works. It's different. And it shows how you'd be able to use your scraps to make something like this, because it's a little bit different. You've got the gold from the paper, and it just works. Lots of room for your to and your from, and a nice Christmas message there. And now we can turn our attention to the front of the card. So I'm just using my bone folder again to make sure that that is still nice and sharp while we add our lace to the front. Our base layer is again one of the Anna Griffin Christmas papers, and you can see I've inked it at the top. Now I've used it's a distress ink, it's walnut stain, and I've simply just inked the top of the cardstock to give it a distressed look, I would say. I could have gone a little bit more heavy-handed, but I haven't done. Now I'm adding my layer to my card to cover the entire card. There we go. And that's going to peep out nicely, is that. My next layer is the shadow layer of the Holly Radial die. Now I've used one of the Anna Griffin 7x5 metallic layers, and they're packs of layers that you can get different colours, and you can use them for different things, and it looks superb. I'm going to add this to my cardstock towards the top and kind of central. There we go. Press that down. Now my next layer is our Holly ornate layer from the radial dies. And what I've done is I've die cut it and embossed it again in one of the 7x5 metallic layers cardstocks, and then I've used just a tonic vintage drops just to add holly berries onto it. I've let it dry. I've got 3D foam towards the top of the layer, and I've got flat tape towards the centre. Now where the actual die cut, and it only cuts half of your cardstock, it doesn't cut this side, I've cut it and left an inch because we're going to cover that anyway, but I've left that with the flat tape so that I can have it as an angle with the 3D foam. And don't worry about the 3D foam that you can see through. So now all I'm going to do is add this over the shadow layer and press it down. I'm only turning it so that I can see, because I can't look over the top, as it were. And I'm doing all my hand gestures and I know you can't see them. So anyway, so I can press that down so you can see it's raised at this side but flat in the middle. And that's exactly what I was looking for. So next, I've got a section of cardstock like we've used for the inside of the card. Now I've taken it through the Paper Tricks 2 embossing folder to get those ridges on it, and then I've inked it again very lightly with the walnut stain. I've got flat tape towards one side and 3D foam at the bottom, and I'm going to simply add this to the bottom of our card like so. There we go. And that covers the bottom of our Holly Radial die. So that puts that section to bed, so to speak. So now we've got two sides, this side and this side, that are sticking up, and a flat centre. So now we can add just a little something through the centre to hide this join. So I've cut a piece of Christmas cardstock, I've inked it slightly, and I'm going to try and get it a little bit central, and that covers the join between the die and the bottom layer. And I'm just going to trim the two edges away from the card like that, she says. There we go. And then I can add my Christmas vintage topper. Now these normally run on the portrait of a card, but because we're using ours horizontally, I've got 3D foam through the middle of mine, and I'm going to position it roughly about there, I would say, looking at it. I've inked this very slightly with the same ink pad that I used for the actual... Oh, hello, we've got a fly. Where did he come from? So I've used the same ink pad and the same brush, so it's just a little bit of excess ink that I've taken around the edge on the vintage topper. So I'm going to cut the two tails away that are hanging over, like so. That's one. And then that's two. There we go. And then I'm going to finish this with a little red bow. And I'm going to just angle it just at one side of the sentiment, like that. And that is a different way to use your radial border dies. It would work for both... Oh, there we go. Go away, Mr. Fly. It would work for both the snowflake and the holly dies, just something a little bit different. And you can see where I've inked it, normally we have quite crisp and clean looking ivories and vintage tones. But this has just, you know, started to distress it a little bit. And it just makes you think, we could go a bit further with it, you could make it a bit lighter, something a bit different. Our inside matches perfectly with the gorgeous matching cardstock. And it's just such a pretty card. Stands up nicely. You can see the layers aren't too heavy, so it will go in a normal envelope. Obviously postage is going to depend where you live in the world. But it's just such a gorgeous card. I'll take lots of photos of it, so please be sure to check my blog. And I'd love hearing from you. I like hearing that you're enjoying Christmas Friday. And we should be doing more as we get to December. Don't panic. And I would just like to say thank you so much for watching. And I shall see you next time.